I'm gonna speak about companies or creating an LLC or any legal entity. Of course, I'm not an accountant or a lawyer. This is not a legal or a financial advice. But anyway, I'm gonna try to help, at least pointing you in the right direction. But you should always try to consult with a professional. When doing this business, I have to say that people are always thinking this is not something that you should report to your authorities. This is some kind of a hobby, and if it's on the internet and the authorities doesn't know or familiar with PayPal, that's a very good source of making money. Now, that's the wrong approach. The right approach is to treat it as a real and a very legit business, treat it as a professional, and that means that if you are looking for a long day relationship doing dropshipping and business, you should start your first entity. Now, people are always thinking, what is the right approach? Should I open an entity which is local? If I'm an Israeli guy, maybe I should open an Israeli company, or if I'm from Bulgaria or Greece, or it doesn't matter where, should I open my entity locally? So that's a very good question for the beginning. Now, I think that at the end, the goal or the way that or the place that you want to reach is actually to open the entity in the place where you do business. So we do business in eBay.com. That means that we are playing in the US arena. And I think that the right approach will be at the end to start my business in the United States. Or if I'm working with the UK, then maybe I should set my goal into opening the entity in the United States, in the UK, and so on and so forth, and you understand the idea.
But to be clear, for example, if you open your entity in the United States, of course, once you receive money, it should be reported to your local authorities. Again, the rules change with the country. We're not an accountant or something, but in Israel, you do have to also have your own, either an entity or be, how do we call it, a businessman who reports it in one way or another.
Well, let me try to correct you with a few things. Now, if I set my business locally, that means that I'm reporting everything in my local business, and your accountant can guide you exactly what you need. But in general, I need to report all my revenues. That means all the incomes that all the money that I'm receiving, and then all the profits that I'm making, all the expenses that I have. At the end, I need to pay taxes only on the income. That means that only on the profits that I generated with my business. Now, if I'm working with, let's say, a company that is outside my territory, if I'm an Israeli citizen or a Greek citizen or a Bulgarian citizen, and then I opened an LLC in the United States, one of the things that you should do probably, you should report all your taxes first and for all in the United States. That means that you will still report on your revenues, you will still put down your expenses, and you will still pay taxes in the United States on your profits. And then if you decide to withdraw your profits into the local business in Israel, or for you personally, you don't need to have an entity to get profits from a foreign company. Then if you withdraw your funds, you need to pay for the income that you made. But this is not a double tax option. So for example, if I have to say that I have an LLC that I opened in the United States. Now, let's say that I generated $1,000. I'm just giving a very small and round numbers. So I generated $1,000 of profit, and then this is my accountant says, okay, you need to pay taxes on $1,000. I don't believe that there is taxes on $1,000, but anyway, just for the discussion. And then I decided to take only 100 out of the 1,000 and withdraw it as income to my local country. So that means that I need to pay taxes as an income from a foreign company, and that's not subject again for taxation. It's subject only for the way that I'm receiving the funds. So if I'm receiving the funds as a company, as a corporation in my local territory, that means that I need to pay or to show that this was some kind of a service or anything that I did for the company that is outside of Israel, for example. And if it's just for myself, for my private use, then I will probably pay taxation by the local rules in my own country.
Yeah. Income tax.
Income tax, exactly. But this is not a double taxation that I'm paying. Let's say a company taxation in the United States, and then I'm paying again in Israel for a company taxation, and then from that I'm profiting and paying taxes again.
Okay.
So that means that it's not subject to double taxation. That's the way it works all over the world. Now, in order to start your journey with your LLC, what you should know, it's very easy to open an LLC in the United States. The only problematic thing is not to open the LLC. That's, let's say, the easiest part. The trickiest part, where you want to work with your entity that you just opened in the United States, the only problem is opening bank accounts. Yeah, and for opening the bank accounts today, you probably gonna need physical presence. Now, there are all kinds of solutions today that are starting to rise in the, let's say, in the fintech world, where all kinds of companies such as Payoneer and many other companies, what they do, they are offering you the option to open an account as a business in the territory of the United States and having bank accounts and stuff like that. And it's starting to become a commodity, something that we can always utilize and have for our own use. And that's a very good and very, I think it's the best approach actually, because it's not relying on the traditional banking rails. It's relying on the, I think, the most innovative new ways of doing businesses.
So you don't have, when you say physical presence, it means that essentially you go to the bank yourself, give them a lot of documents, any proof that they decide, sometimes it's per case basis, and then maybe they will open an account, right? And it's something
it's not maybe, it's almost certain. So if you walk into a bank in the United States and you have an LLC, as long as you have your passport and you have your driving license from your local country, which is an international one, and you have all the documents of the business, which is the certificate of organization. Sometimes it requires some kind of a contract. It's called it's an agreement that when you open the LLC, you use it as a public agreement, הסכם מייסדים.
Founders
agreement. Founders agreement, and your EIN number, which is a tax authorization number that you get from the IRS in the United States. So as long as you have all of these, they will open bank accounts for you. Some of the banks is asking for a local address in the United States. Now that's the, let's say, the tricky part where they ask also for a utility bill that proves your address, but there are many ways to overcome that. The best way is actually going into any mobile store, purchasing for $10 just an US number, and get instantly a utility bill that proves the address that you just gave them. And that works for banks, and it's very important to do that. I did it in 2010, and I think that I opened a bank account in almost every bank in the United States.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many are there?
Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Capital One, Capital, which is a different one, PNC.
Which is the best?
Well, I think that the best one is of course Chase with their online banking, but the problem with Chase is that they are very strict with the rules, and sometimes they even close your bank accounts, and that's an issue. So I think that today Wells Fargo does a really good job. So I will go with Wells Fargo.
Okay, so let's now talk about what are the main benefits of having LLC. Well, specifically, we're talking about eBay.com selling in the USA.
Okay, so first of all, if you have an LLC, you can get a real tax exemption certificate, and not just a fake one that you buy on the internet from all kinds of services that are offering this. So you can get a real tax exemption. That's a very good thing if you are doing reselling, and we are doing what is called in the United States reselling, and that saves a lot of money.
So it means like if you're buying from Amazon, instead of paying the tax, you don't see the tax, or what is
no? It means that you don't pay for sales tax when you're buying on Amazon, but that means that you still need to collect taxes from your customers. If you have a presence in, let's say, Florida, that means that I need to collect every time that I'm selling inside Florida. I need to collect sales tax, and I need to report to that to the Department of Revenue, and I need to pay that. But that's something that you can consult again with your accountant, and you can explain better how exactly that works.
Okay.
Now, second, working with a local entity again helps you, first of all, achieve other things such as a PayPal account, where if you get after a while an EIN number, ITIN number, that means tax identifier number, but it's an individual one. So that means that that's your own identification of paying taxes in the United States, and that means that you can open a PayPal account and ditch all the crazy taxes and fees that you are paying for PayPal today in your local arena. So today, most of users say that they pay about 4.4% for PayPal plus 30 cents. And since it's an international transaction, in the United States, they pay an extra 0.5% of the cross-border.
So it's 4.9% plus 30 cents. That's a lot.
Yeah, and if you take it in comparison to what is happening in the United States, so as you open your PayPal account, it goes down to 2.9% instantly. That's a lot of money to save. That's almost half of the fees to save, and that's a lot of money for you to gain in revenues. Now, more than that, I think that the ecosystem in the United States is really understands bookkeeping, or the way that things are being dealt in regards to dropshipping. So I will give an example. For Israel, for example, when I was starting my days in 2008, 2009, when I went to my accountant and I told him, listen, I'm taking items from Amazon and I'm listing them on eBay, and then we started to build the way that we are reporting that for the tax authorities. That was an issue for them to understand the complexity of the transaction and the way that we are dealing with them. And if there is a VAT included or not a VAT included, how should they report those transactions? So what was amazing with the tax authorities in the United States, that they truly understand everything about it. So today my accountant is actually connected to my PayPal account in the United States. She can see all the transactions, she can react, she can download reports by herself, and she can report it as revenues, and they truly understand the system, the way it operates, and the way it works. Second thing, and this is very good for people that have a lot of expenses, or maybe they want to gain profits abroad and not inside their territory. It's very good because you can generate a profit, you can use it to buy assets, to use your money in order to make to actually grow your self treasury.
Yeah, invest.
Yeah, do your own investing, and then only in the event of withdrawing your funds into your local territory, then you're gonna need to pay taxes on the incomes that you decided to take, and that's helping you grow some kind of revenues. By the way, the tax authorities in the United States receive, at least in comparison to other places, they receive more expenses than what normally authorities around the world receives. Mm-hmm. So, for example, in Israel, if you pay for a gas, that's only 30% Deductible, exactly. But in the United States, it's 100% deductible, and all the lunches, food that you purchase outside, that's also something that you can use as a deductible.
Mm-hmm. I think another thing, just if you look at it generally with opening an LLC or another company type in the United States, is that eBay will treat you more seriously and will be able to hire your limits much faster. So, for example, when I open Israeli eBay accounts, it takes much more time to raise the limits. I have to call them, convince them every time. With the United States, they're much more open to do that. They even sometimes give you like 100 or 1,000 items limit without you even asking. It happens in a higher probability, and this means that not only will you have these benefits as we talked about regarding the percentages in PayPal, in Amazon tax exemptions and so on, you'll be able to grow much faster. You'll put more items and you'll be able to gain more profit from that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that even though you can go, let's leave eBay for a second and say that we want to start our business in Amazon, for example. So I can still open a business on Amazon as a local entity or as a local person in Israel, for example, or other places. But it will be easier and they will take you more seriously because they can actually feel more comfortable with an LLC. If you ever did this process, that will help you probably open your business in the United States. So I just wanted to say that if you are planning to grow your business in this direction, you should think about opening an LLC. And I'm guessing that that's summarized at least the intention of or the way that you should think with your business. Now, I think that the that this is a very good time to open this to discussion and receive questions from you guys. If you have any question regarding what is the right process, what you should do, feel free to ask. We will try to answer as best as we can.
Okay, so Sarahadin asks, I think LLC is good to start wholesale dropshipping in Amazon and in eBay US. Is that correct?
I think that for an wholesale, I think that for retail arbitrage is very good as well. So I'm guessing that as long as you work and operate in the United States, you should always try to achieve a goal of opening an LLC in the United States. Most of the people will not do the extra mile or the effort, but it's really worth it. And if you are taking your business, I think if you're taking your business seriously, then you should really try to try to get into that.
Also, when you're dealing with suppliers in the United States especially, and then when you're trying to open an account, this gives you a big advantage over anyone who doesn't have an LLC. One of their main concerns is to see, we're not dealing with someone who is shady. They have to report, obviously, their income, their taxes, and everything like that, and they want to be confident that they're dealing with someone legit. When you have an LLC, you're showing that you're more legit. It's kind of like a screening process. So you give more effort, you receive more benefits. That's pretty much
US people in general don't like to deal with entities outside of United States. That's a mentality. We cannot change that. So if you are doing an wholesale, it will be probably much easier for you to approach them as an LLC. It looks to them less suspicious, easier to get your hands on in case there is any kind of issues, and it looks good in the reports. When you are dealing with the IRS and stuff like that, you always want the IRS to feel comfortable with your business, and if they see that you're dealing with outside of United States, sometimes that can be a problem. And also I can say that even if we discussed a little bit about banks, so sometimes when banks sees money that are coming from overseas, and that's a huge amount or substantial amount, they look at it as something that can be problematic, shady, or whatever. Even if it's a very legit way of receiving funds.
Okay, so we've been here for 1 hour.
Yeah.
Well, let's give one last chance for one more question, and if not, we'll end that.
Perfect. So I see that Jonathan puts in a link to what Anna pointed.
I'm not sure that this is. I think it's more like the seller protections, stuff like that.
Okay, I'm gonna read about it after that, but let's see. I think that we have one more question.
Yes, from Jonathan also. So, what is the operational overhead of opening an LLC in USA and the monthly cost? That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So it really depends on the accountant that you are looking to work with. I find it actually cheaper than in Israel, for example. So today I'm paying for my accountant only $200 to do everything, the bookkeeping and running all the reports and everything per month. Yeah, and that's a very good rate for running a company that does a big revenues. So I find it very, very good. And I think that it's actually it's not an overhead, because I think that that's even better when you can report more expenses in the United States and actually make more money from what you profit, because you reported more expenses. So I think that there is not a big overhead of doing everything. Of course, there is the annual report, and that's changes between accountant and states, how much they want to charge you, but normally there is not big overhead. Actually, it's cheaper than Israel.
And how about the cost of opening the entity?
The cost
opening?
Yeah, well, it's nothing. Actually, today, when I'm opening an LLC, I'm actually doing it by myself. So
registration.
Yeah, we do all the registration, everything. We provide all the documents, everything. The process is actually very straightforward. I'm opening all my businesses in Florida, but that's really depends on where you feel comfortable of doing that. But I can recommend about Florida. But anyway, if you go to any accountant in the United States, if he will overcharge you, that will be about $400 to open an LLC. And if it's a very good, if he gives you a very good rate, that should be somewhere around $200, no more than that.